All television and radio stations in the United States will now cease their regular programming.
And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Meaning upon his return at the seventh trumpet, Jerusalem being where Satan will appear as the Antichrist at the sixth trumpet 2.5 months beforehand, in the midst of Daniel's 70th week, which was 7 years, but is now 5 months. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, which is the geographical location Christ will return to, as we know from Zechariah chapter 14 verse 4, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world, which is the end of the 5-month-long hour of temptation at the seventh trumpet, when all are changed into spiritual bodies, which is when the 1,000-year-long great tribulation begins. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many, meaning those who say they're Christians, which can even mean those who are Christians, but don't understand the truth of God's word, so they unwittingly become agents of the hidden dynasty of religion, which lines up with 1948, when Kenite-occupied Israel came into being, setting the stage for the rider of the white horse in the first seal, meaning Satan in his role of Antichrist, to appear in Jerusalem. So then verses 4 and 5 line up with the first seal, and what follows will line up with the second seal in the hidden dynasty of politics, which lines up with 1945, when the United Nations came into being, which is the great horn of the he-goat in Daniel chapter 8 verse 8, as well as the one who sends a raiser of taxes in Daniel 11:20, in my opinion. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. The 2 world wars resulted in the United Nations, and it's at the woe of the 5th trumpet, after the United Nations gets broken, so to speak, that the one world political system of Revelation 13 will come into being, having 7 heads, which are symbolic of the 7 continents of the planet Earth. For nation shall rise against nation, meaning the Kenite nation rising up against itself through 2 warring factions, which is happening at this time within the shadow government of the Kenites, which is symbolized by the he-goat of Daniel chapter 8. But once the great horn of the he-goat gets broken and the one world political system emerges, when Satan and his angels get cast to earth, the he-goat of Daniel chapter 8 will become the leopard of Daniel chapter 7, which is symbolic of the Kenites and their 4 hidden dynasties, providing the infrastructure of the so-called New World Order. And kingdom against kingdom, which is the deadly wound to the New World Order, which is caused by one or more of the countries on one of the 7 continents pulling out of the one world political system, which will wound the entire thing to death, so to speak. So everything written up to this point is political, starting from verse 6. And what should follow next, in my opinion, is earthquakes in diverse places, which means major geopolitical shifts, ending the political section of Matthew 24, which matches up with Mark 13 and Luke 21. So apparently Matthew 24:7 was copied down incorrectly in an early Greek manuscript, because again, these aren't literal earthquakes, but rather major geopolitical shifts, especially the shift from a one-world political system to a one-world religious system, which is what follows the deadly wound, which is what kingdom against kingdom means. And there shall be famines, which lines up with 1913 in the hidden dynasty of economics with the Federal Reserve Act, and pestilences, meaning pestilences of the mind, meaning the deception the inhabitants of the earth are indoctrinated with through the hidden dynasty of education, 1830 being when the 4 hidden dynasties began to be globalized, beginning with the hidden dynasty of education, which lines up with the 4th seal, and it's at the 6th seal, the 6th trumpet and the 6th vial, that the images of Satan and his fallen angel locust army and the consumer stage thereof will be transmitted throughout the globe unto all the television, smartphone, and computer screens, 1830 being when Joseph Henry's foundational research research on the electromagnetic telegraph is said to date back to, according to the Smithsonian Institutional Archives, paving the way for the development of the technology that will be used at 666 to deceive most Christians into worshiping Satan instead of Christ, which is what Antichrist means. All these are the beginning of sorrows, and again, the four hidden dynasties began to be globalized in 1830, beginning with the hidden dynasty of education, and the first four seals line up in reverse order with the first four trumpets and vials. For example, 411, which means information, but in this case misinformation, meaning the fourth seal, the first trumpet, and the first vial, beginning in 1830, which is also when the any moment now rapture deception came into being, but it's not until 666 that the spiritual death of most Christians occurs, when all six trumpets of deception are sounding at the same time, which is also when the first six vials, which contain plagues of deception, kill the third part of men, spiritually speaking, meaning those who were Christians up until they were deceived into receiving the mark of the beast in their foreheads, which is the deception that Satan is Jesus' return.